Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered why you just love certain brands? Or why some ads seem to read your mind? Well, I can tell you it's not magic. It's actually a relentless hunt for one incredibly powerful thing: insight. Okay, so to really get this, let's look at a classic story. Think back to the early 2010s. The smartphone universe was pretty much ruled by Apple's iPhone. Now, Samsung was a huge company, but they were facing this absolute titan of an opponent, and they really needed to find a way to break through the noise. So, what do? How do you go up against a giant like that? You can't just build a phone with a few more features and cross your fingers, right? Samsung's plan was way, way smarter. Instead of just fighting a war over specs, they decided to launch a brilliant investigation. And they went straight to the best source possible: the customers. They literally dug through hundreds of thousands of online comments, blog posts, and tweets. And they weren't just gathering data points. They were hunting for a genuine insight, a deep understanding of those little frustrations that iPhone users were griping about. And what they did with that insight, it was genius. They launched this ad campaign called "The Next Big Thing Is Already Here." And these ads were like surgical strikes. They showed off features that directly fixed those online complaints. Things like having a bigger screen or being able to swap files just by tapping two phones together. They even got a little cheeky with it, poking fun at Apple's Genius Bar employees with this tagline. The whole campaign was a massive viral hit, and it all started from one simple thing: listening. It's a perfect example of the incredible power of marketing research. So, what exactly is marketing research, anyway? Well, the textbook definition says it's the function that connects a company to its customers through information. But honestly, a much better way to think about it is like a treasure hunt. It's a formal process for digging up those absolute game-changing insights that can make or break an entire brand. Okay, so how do companies like Samsung actually do this? It's not just random guesswork. There's a formal process, a 6-step blueprint that guides them all the way from a fuzzy question to a concrete data-driven decision. And here it is, the roadmap. It all starts with defining the problem, then you develop your research plan, go out and collect the information, analyze what you found, present those findings, and finally, you make the call. Let's walk through how this actually works with a real-world example. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of American Airlines. They've got this idea: what if we offer really fast, high-speed Wi-Fi on our flights for, say, $25? This brings us to step one. And honestly, this is the most critical step of them all: defining the problem correctly. See, the team has to get super specific here. If they just ask, "What do our travelers want?" well, that's way too broad. But if they only look at the costs, that's too narrow. The real question, the one that actually matters, is this: will enough first-class passengers, their most profitable customers, actually be willing to pay $25 for this? Getting this question exactly right is the bedrock for the entire project. All right, with that problem clearly defined, it is time for step 2, developing the research plan. And you better believe marketers have a massive toolkit for gathering all the clues they need. When you get this step right, the results can be absolutely massive. Just look at Procter & Gamble. They totally reinvigorated their $3 billion Pantene brand by doing a really deep dive. They used everything from surveys to EEG brainwave scans to truly understand the emotional connection women have with their hair. But oh boy, getting it wrong can be so costly. Tropicana learned that the hard way. They changed their super iconic packaging without doing enough consumer testing. Sales immediately plummeted by 20%, and they had to scramble to switch back. Ouch. So what's actually in this toolkit? Well, it ranges from really high-tech stuff like moderated focus groups, where marketers are watching from behind a two-way mirror, to something beautifully simple, like good old-fashioned observation. In fact, the founder of Staples used to just make weekly visits to all kinds of different stores just to get inspiration. Now, a classic tool is the questionnaire, but the design of that questionnaire is everything. I mean, if you ask a simple yes or no question, you get one kind of data. If you use something like a Likert scale to see how strongly people agree with a statement, you get a lot more nuance. And if you just ask a completely open-ended question, you might just get an amazing insight you never even thought to ask about. Okay, this next part is absolutely crucial. You can have mountains of data, but that's only half the battle. Collecting the information is one thing. Analyzing it correctly to find that aha moment, well, that's where the real magic happens. And when it doesn't, it can be a total disaster. And I mean it. When the analysis goes wrong, it can go spectacularly wrong. Sometimes a researcher can have all the information in the world right in front of them and still come to a disastrously, horribly flawed conclusion. So let me tell you about one of the most legendary mess-ups in research history. Back in the 1970s, a researcher told a major movie studio to pass on some sci-fi film. And his reasoning, it seemed pretty logical at the time. He argued that after the Watergate scandal, audiences wanted realism, and after the Vietnam War, they would absolutely hate a movie with the word war in its title. The film he told them to pass on? It was Star Wars, yeah. A pretty colossal miscalculation that ended up costing that studio over $4.3 billion. And here's the key takeaway. That researcher delivered information, but not insight. He correctly analyzed the political mood of the country, but he totally missed the single most important piece of data in front of him, the script itself. He didn't see that underneath it all, it was this timeless human story about love and loss and good versus evil. Now, let's contrast that huge failure with a huge success. Best Buy used its research to create these customer personas for its Geek Squad service. They imagined people like Jill, a busy mom who just needs her tech to work, or Charlie, a guy who wants a friendly, non-intimidating guide for his new computer. By turning their data into actual people, they could tailor their service to meet real human needs. Now that is insight in action. And that brings us to the final steps, making the decision and then measuring the results. So after a company acts on all this research, how do they know if it actually paid off? How do they keep score? Well, they use tools like marketing dashboards to keep track of all the key metrics. We're talking everything from brand awareness and customer satisfaction all the way to, of course, sales. It's how they measure their performance and see if that initial research really led to a win. So the next time you find a product that feels like it was designed just for you, remember, that was no accident. It all started with a single, perfectly defined question and a relentless, powerful hunt for a true human insight. So it makes you wonder, what question do you think they're asking about you right now?